Hey everybody out there, and welcome to Korede Dou Jaa, where I will be starting off a new thing that I'm doing from now on. Um, Out of sheer boredom and just an interest in getting back into a bit of reading, I decided that I'd start reading things out loud, and of those things, I'm thinking maybe some fan fiction and some other stuff. But basically, I'm going to be taking requests on things to read. So anything that is, I'd say, around up to, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 pages long for the moment. Just thinking stuff that goes with fan fiction. Now, one kind of fan fiction that I won't be reading is going to be My Little Pony fan fiction, because I've seen a bunch of people reading that stuff, and I don't want to cut in on anyone else's gimmick. But other than that, I'd say any fan fiction of anime, stuff like that, will work. Also, I'll be reading some mythology. Right now, I'm going to be giving you the first few myths in a book of Japanese mythology that I'm currently just pondering over and reading. So, anyway, I'd better get started, otherwise, I'm going to hit that limit of time. So, yeah. Chapter 1: The Period of the Gods. We are told that in a very beginning, heaven and earth were not yet separated, and the In and Yo were not yet divided. This reminds us of other cosmogony stories. The In and Yo, corresponding to the Chinese Yang and Yin, were the male and female principles. It was more convenient for the old Japanese writers to imagine the coming into being of creation in terms not very remote from their own manner of birth. In Polynesian mythology, we find pretty much the same conception, where Rangi and Papa represent heaven and earth, and further parallels may be found in Egyptian and other cosmogony stories. In nearly all, we find the male and female principles taking a prominent and, after all, very rational place. We are told in the Nihongi that these male and female principles formed a chaotic mass like an egg, which was of obscurely defined limits and contained germs. Eventually, this egg was quickened into life, and the purer, clearer part was drawn out and formed heaven, while the heavier element settled down and became earth, which is compared to the floating of a fish sporting on the surface of the water. A mysterious form resembling a reed shoot suddenly appeared between heaven and earth, and as suddenly became transformed into a god called Kuni Tokotachi, land eternal standing of august thing. We may pass over the other divine births until we come into the important deities known as Izanagi and Izanami, male who invites and female who invites. About these beings has been woven an entrancing myth. Izanagi and Izanami. Izanagi and Izanami stood on the floating bridge of heaven and looked down into the abyss. They inquired of each other if there were a country far, far below the great floating bridge. They were determined to find out. In order to do so, they thrust down a jewel spear and found the ocean. Raising the spear a little, water dripped from it, coagulated, and became the island of Onogoro-jima, spontaneously congeal island. Upon this island, the two deities descended. Shortly afterwards, they desired to become husband and wife, though, as a matter of fact, they were brother and sister. But such a relationship in the East has never precluded marriage. These deities accordingly set up a pillar on the island. Izanagi walked around one way and Izanami walked around the other. When they met, Izanami said, "How beautiful! I have met a lovely youth." One would have thought that this naive remark would have pleased Izanagi, but it made him extremely angry, and he retorted, "I am a man, and by that right should have spoken first. How is it that on the contrary, thou, a woman, shouldst have been the first to speak? This is unlucky. Let us go round again." So it happened that the two deities started afresh. Once again they met. This time Izanagi remarked, "How delightful! I have met a lovely maiden." Shortly after this very ingenious proposal, Izanagi and Izanami were married. When Izanami had given birth to islands, seas, rivers, herbs, and trees, she and her lord consulted together, saying, "We have now produced the great 8-island country, with the mountains, rivers, herbs, and trees. Why should we not produce someone who shall be the lord of the universe?" The wish of these deities was fulfilled, for in due season Amaterasu, the sun goddess, was born. She was known as Heaven Illumined of Great Deity, and was so extremely beautiful that her parents determined to send her up the ladder of heaven, and in the high sky above to cast forever her glorious sunshine upon the earth. Their next child was the moon god, Tsukiyumi. His silver radiance was not so fair as the golden effulgence of his sister, the sun goddess, but he was nevertheless deemed worthy to be her consort. So up the ladder of heaven climbed the moon god. They soon quarreled, and Amaterasu said, "Thou art a wicked deity. I must not see thee face to face." They were therefore separated by day and night, and dwelt apart. The next child of Izanagi and Izanami was Susanoo, the impetuous male. We shall return to Susanoo and his doings later on, and content ourselves for the present with confining our attention to his parents. Izanami gave birth to the fire god, Kagutsuchi. The birth of this child made her extremely ill. Izanagi knelt on the ground, bitterly weeping and lamenting, but his sorrow availed nothing, and Izanami crept away into the land of Yomi, or, well, the equivalent of Hades. Her lord, however, could not live without her, and he too went to the land of Yomi. When he discovered her, she said regretfully, "My lord and husband, why is thy coming so late? I have already eaten of the cooking furnace of Yoni. Nevertheless, I am about to lie down to rest. I pray thee, do not look at me." Izanagi, moved by curiosity, refused to fulfill her wish. It was dark in the land of Yomi, so he secretly took out his many-toothed comb, broke off a piece, and lighted it. The sight that greeted him was ghastly and horrible in the extreme. His once beautiful wife had now become a swollen and festering creature. 8 varieties of thunder gods rested upon her. The thunder of fire, earth, and mountain were all leering upon him, and roaring with their great voices. Izanagi grew frightened and disgusted, saying, "I have come unawares of this hideous, polluted land." His wife retorted, "Why didst thou not observe which I had charged thee? Now I am put to shame." Izanami was so angry with her lord for ignoring her wish and breaking in upon her privacy that she sent the 8 ugly females of Yomi to pursue him. Izanagi drew his sword and fled down the dark legions of the underworld. As he ran, he took off his headdress and flung it to the ground. It immediately became a bunch of grapes. When the ugly females saw it, they bent down and ate the luscious fruit.